Well, good afternoon. Essentially, we are here for sort of a one-off podcast video discussion on our experiences on Round Square. And we're going to talk about things that we've experienced so far. We're going to talk about what Round Square means to us. And then we're going to talk about what happens or what we're planning to do with LVS and Round Square moving forward. So it's an exciting time for us because we've just come back from our Round Square trip in Colombia, where myself, Miss Chihuahua, and the 5 lovely Year 12s that you see sitting around the table have just taken part in the Round Square International Conference. So what we'll do before we get started is we'll just whip around the group, starting here on my left-hand side, with an opportunity to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Leighton.
Hi, I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Igor.
Hi, I'm Finn.
Right, we might come back to Evie. There's always one in the group, isn't there? And I have to say, something that I've really enjoyed getting to know these Year 12s as well. We were in Colombia. I find that Evie has one of the most contagious laughs that I have ever experienced in any one episode. But anyway, Evie Morris is the 5th member of our group. So here's your chance, Evie, go.
Hi, I'm Evie.
Hi, Evie. Right, so... for purposes of the people or anyone who's listening to this, I want to achieve a few things from today. I want all the people who listen to this to kind of have a little bit of a better understanding about Round Square. So we're going to talk about our own experiences with Round Square, kind of what Round Square meant to us. But the whole purpose of that is to try and put a little bit of context into Round Square, what that means to us at LVS and what we need to do. So essentially, to simplify it, Round Square is essentially a community of schools who value the same thing. It's a community of schools who think that character education and experiential learning is just as important as sort of academics and mental and spiritual and physical education as well. So it was actually founded in 1966, I'm sure you guys know this already, by a group of schools who were... 2 of them were actually founded by the same guy, Kurt Hahn. And a lot of the principles of Round Square go back to sort of his philosophy. So Kurt Hahn was a German educator. And I'm going to just quickly read a quote here, but I think it puts a little bit of context into what he was hoping in his sort of education and his outlook. And the quote goes like this: "There's more to us than we know. If we can be made to see it, perhaps for the rest of our lives we will be unwilling to settle for less." And I think that's really powerful. And I think, is essentially something that, we all kind of, should strive to be, to kind of... I always encourage my students when I'm doing assemblies to be on this like journey of self-improvement. And I think what he does there is kind of sum that up a little bit. So, as I said, community of schools, what does that mean for us? Well, we only became a Round Square school quite recently. So, as you all know already, but the listeners probably don't know, is when a school becomes a Round Square school, they go through this like trial phase, which is when the school is referred to as a candidate school. And that lasts up to 2 years before, we decide if Round Square is a good fit for us, and Round Square decide if we're a good fit for them. At which point we become a full member school. It's called a global member school. And we're kind of going through that process at the moment. I only recently became the Round Square coordinator, but already been able to see a lot of the fantastic things that they have to offer, which is essentially what we're going to talk about. So the philosophy kind of is based on 6 ideals. Can anyone remember what they are?
Idealism.
No.
Internationalism. Democracy.
Environmentalism.
They follow the ideals. So
Leadership and service.
Yeah, so it's an acrostic. Internationalism, democracy, environmentalism, adventure, leadership and service. And essentially what it is it's a group of us that can get together and sort of provide those opportunities for students. If we are able to instill those values in you guys, and if you guys have an opportunity to develop those skills, well, Kurt Hahn thinks, Round Square think, and LVS think, it's going to be really beneficial for you moving forward. So that's enough about what Round Square is. It's a big deal for us, LVS. Really proud of it, and it's going to be a massive platform for which we can, develop moving forward. So I've got a few questions because, as I mentioned already, we have been in Colombia on the Round Square International Conference. Now, there are two kinds of conferences. The big one, which is called the International Conference, that happened in Colombia this year. Last year it was in Kenya. And next year, excitingly, it's going to be in Dubai. And that's something that we offer to students like you guys who are in year 12. I want to hand over to you guys because I've been talking for long enough. And I wanted to ask a question. Well, maybe Tom, you can start us off here. Can you remember the first time you heard about Round Square?
Yeah, it was last year during an assembly. We had assembly about Round Square. Initially, I didn't think much of it, but then I went further into detail, looked up on the internet, found their ideals, found what they were, their purpose was, and I thought it was a really good idea to get involved with that.
And Evie, what do you remember about the first time you heard about Round Square?
I actually had to have lunch with one of the ambassadors from Round Square when they were kind of deciding if we could start our application of becoming a Round Square school. And I remember them telling me, oh yeah, we've just been to Kenya. And I was like, what? And they said, yeah, we've been to Kenya and we've seen and met all these people from all around the world. And I was like, no, I was a bit, second guessing it because it was such a cool and good opportunity. And then obviously it became something that was available to LVS, and then we had assemblies and talks on it. And I was like, no, I'm obviously going to apply for this and want to be involved.
That's awesome. So actually we owe our success in our application process partly down to you, Evie. So that's incredible. How did you decide, or I'd open this up to anyone really, but so you would have sat down, Miss Wall would have presented Round Square to you, first time some of you ever heard of it, but how did you decide that perhaps Colombia was something you wanted to do and the international conference was something you wanted to take part in?
It was during the sixth form dinner when we were introducing the new students who are joining year 12 this year, and Miss Wall had advertised it again, but I think she added different details that sounded a lot more appealing to me, and I think that was what convinced me mostly to go. It made it seem like a good opportunity.
Yeah, lovely. Leighton, I particularly enjoy your story about this. So why did you sign up for Round Square International Conference?
So the reason why I really wanted to go is because I've never been to Colombia and I thought I'm never going to be able to go here. So I just wanted to I wanted to find out what the country was like. And on the other side, I just fell out with my mum the night before. So I thought this would be a great way to get her away.
Yeah, exactly. What we do when we have a conference have come available, and we're going to talk a little bit shortly about some of the conferences that are available to some of the other years. But what we do is we advertise that to the parents. We do an assembly about it to make sure the students know about it, and then there's a little bit of a selection process. So, Evie, would you tell me a little bit about the selection process? What did that involve for you?
So I remember we got given a letter, and it was quite brief. We got told to write a letter, and there wasn't really a brief on it, but it was simply saying, why should we take you to this international conference? And I remember going, wow, this is quite vague. But I think that almost gave you the opportunity to go, what can I bring? It's not only me wanting this experience, but what can I bring to this experience to not only make it better for myself, for the people I'm going with, but for the students that were there. So we wrote that letter, and then we had an interview, which was again talking a lot about the letter, possibly even about the ideals of why you'd represent the school and their ideals and Round Square's ideals as well. And then from that you could be selected to be in a small group of people going to Colombia.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, obviously you guys went through that process, your application was successful, and then there must have been a moment where it dawned on you that you were travelling, thousands of miles, let's say, across all the way to an unknown place that none of us had been before in South America. So I'm really interested to know, before you went, sort of how you were feeling about that. Could you just tell me about whether or not you were nervous, were you excited?
Well, before going, I was very nervous. I think my parents were a bit more nervous, but kind of with the research I had done while writing my application letter and seeing what Round Square really was, I was a bit at ease knowing that it's going to be an international conference with all these schools, and I think the going to another continent isn't the hardest part. It's getting to know people, getting to kind of interact in an environment that I've personally never been in before. So
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I was just really excited to go and, take myself out of my comfort zone. I mean, I experienced everything that you guys did as well. And I have to say, as just a newly sort of appointed Round Square coordinator, the idea of you guys going out and staying in homestay families was something that I was quite nervous about, I have to say. So, it was all part of our process of, coming to terms with it and risk assessing it and making sure everything was in order. But I think on reflection, that kind of sending you guys out as part of the homestay was never ever anything to be worried about. And would any of you tell me about your homestay experiences? Because that was a highlight as far as I know.
I personally think that the homestay experience is really tied the whole,
Definitely.
yeah, it tied it together because upon meeting our home family,
Because we
there
were
was
together,
this-
weren't we?
Yeah, we were together.
As in,
There was
you guys
this
all, yeah.
feeling, like all the anxiety kind of dropped away because they were so open and so welcoming. And so I think, yeah, it's fine to be anxious about going to another country, staying with this family you've never met before. But once you actually do it, and once you get to experience the culture and experience other people's lives, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's absolutely it.
I think they all had lovely homes as well, which definitely helped us all.
Yeah, I saw some of the photos. Evie and Agogo stayed on this penthouse apartment right at the top with these huge windows overlooking Bogota, which looks pretty amazing.
It's quite tempting to go back. They keep going, if you want to stay in Colombia, bring your family. I'm like, I might.
Yeah, so, and when I spoke to Tom's mum at the beginning, before we went out, I asked her what kind of advice she'd given you, and essentially one of the things that I think you guys did really well was you really got stuck in. And whenever we have these experiences, they take us out of our comfort zone. And what you five were able to do so well was literally pull your sleeves up and really, really get stuck in. We're going to talk about a few of those things later. I'm looking forward to talking a little bit about some of the dancing that I saw at the closing ceremony. But in the time being, let's talk. So just for a bit more context on this. So it was Sunday, we met at school, we jumped on a minibus, took ourselves to Gatwick, and we flew via Madrid, landed in Colombia, in Bogota, got met by one of the reps, and then eventually taken to a hotel where we met the homestay families. So the first night we spent separated in homestays. And we came back and we spent the last night together in homestays as well. We reconvened on Monday morning at one of the host schools, and we had a pretty awesome time at the opening ceremony. Who fancies talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think we were all standing on the field gathered in our schools, and they were reading out names to go to the hall. And we ended up jumping the queue, so we were the first school walking out as the marching band.
What, were you number 48?
Yeah.
Number 48.
Yeah.
But we walked out and this marching band was there, and yeah.
It was
It was
really unreal.
yeah, it was amazing, wasn't it?
It was amazing.
When we were waiting for the teacher, Mr. Fraser and Miss Trara to arrive, there was so many kids just running about trading pins, and I just thought that was so surreal that everyone didn't know each other, but they were all just having so many conversations.
Yeah, definitely. Because people would just come up to you and start talking. They'd be like, where are you from? How long was your flight? Our journey was this. Do you want a pin? And I remember by the end of it, you've literally got pins from New Zealand, Australia, Chile, India, Pakistan, and I've got all these pins. I'm like, that's crazy. It's really, really unreal to think that not only have I met all these people, but I've got a little something from them and they've got something from me now. And obviously it's a good way to start conversation, so I thought that was quite special.
Yeah, I think the socialising part was so powerful. Often we find ourselves in social situations where a lot of people put guards up, and I kind of felt that when we were there, when we were in Colombia with all of these students from, hundreds of students from tens of schools around the world, that that kind of that inhibition was taken away, and we didn't feel awkward about having conversations with strangers. I think that was so powerful. what happened then was we had our opening ceremony, which was fantastic. We had an incredible keynote speaker. And I think the thing that I really liked was that the keynote speaker addressed a lot of the things, you know, that I kind of thought maybe might be pushed to the side. But, you know, the history of Colombia, you know, the way that they kind of managed the, you know, drugs and gangs and violence. And what the keynote speaker, I think, did really well was basically look at that and go, okay, well, this is what we are, this is where we're at, and this is what we're doing moving forward. And I thought that was fantastic. The theme for the Round Square Conference, I can't believe we've talked about half of it and we haven't spoken about the theme. Can anyone remember what that is?
Blooming
from the past. Yeah. And so in all of the things that we did, when they were talking about the ideals, about leadership, about internationalism, you know, we often kind of turned back to that. So once the conference was finished, we all jumped on a bus and we got on a bus which took about 4 hours.
And a concussion.
And a concussion. Yeah, Miss Chihuahua tried to kill me by putting the bottle, her heavy water bottle, above my head, and halfway through towards the end of the journey, it fell out and knocked me over the head. But I think the bottle was more damaged than my head. Which, who can tell me about the 3 days we spent up in Pipa?
I think it's safe to say all of us will just never forget those 3 days. They were genuinely some of the best days I think we've all ever experienced. We did various activities that revolved around the ideals that we had. So, example, we built chicken hearts, and that was for, you know, we showed leadership when building those and service, and it was just really nice to get other people's who are from different cultures.
Because you weren't with
No,
Scott,
100%. I mean, me and Evie were together, but the rest of them were
you had your own.
We were just
Yeah.
I was working with a Colombian, a person from America, and it was just to get people's point of views and just chat with people. Yeah, it was pretty special.
That was also closer to the end of the 3 days. So I think on the third day, we really, really delved into culture. And so my group, we did the dancing and we made arepas. And I found that doing the dance and making the arepas was fun, but what was behind that, the culture. We got to learn so much about the culture in the area we were and the culture of Colombia and how people kind of come together, like especially with the dance, where the instructor explained that after a hard day of working in the fields, people will come together to do these dances to be a community, and I found that really, really interesting. It was almost kind of how we all came from different countries to come together to Colombia for a common goal. So that was very interesting.
I think Pipa itself, although it may have been 3 or 4 hours away, when I was speaking to my home families, it was really nice because you have places like Bogota, which is where, you know, all the tourists will see that, but a place like Pipa is something only the locals will know, and you get to see the authenticity of it.
I was told that Pipa was like a historic city with like loads of stuff that tourists don't see because they don't know about it, because of how the history behind it, because they don't think Colombia has any other history besides the drugs and the wars, but they do.
Also, it was interesting because even just driving through it, like the architecture, I remember people talking about it, and you could see like the traditional built-up walls and stuff. And to spend like the 3 days there, so on the first day we built, so we went up into the mountains, bit of altitude sickness. We built some chicken huts, and then we went on a hike. So the chicken huts was service, and the hike was
giving back to the community.
Yeah. And I remember him talking about how like you have these traditional houses and these modernised houses, and people again would come together to make these traditional houses. And I thought that was a lot of the key elements again in the mural on the day 3 or whatever, for me was anyway. So that was day 1. What did we do day 2?
That was the
soil restoration, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So we had the adventure high ropes, so that was focusing on our ideal of adventure. Which was basically kind of like go ape in Colombia, but unreal through all the trees and the scenery. And then we went to a goat farm where we shoveled manure. and planted trees, learnt how to make cheese, soil restoration. That was all service, leadership and environmentalism. And then day 3 we had, as you said, a lot more of a cultural day. So we did lots of different things. I remember you two had to go on a bus really early and go off and do like a dance workshop. But I remember we 3 did a mural, mask painting, scavenger hunt and cupcakes. And these were all things that were in and around the town that we were in. We were in Tibasoa, which was a really rural town. And talking about you coming together and dancing, I remember coming together and they said we were painting this mural and they were like, yeah, about 200 hands have contributed to this from all around the world. And I was like, that's crazy. But they were the overview of the 3 days.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, I think it's really special to think. We also did so one of the big themes that they spoke about was this conflict that seems to be happening between sort of traditional local Colombians who live by the land, farm potatoes or look after goats and make cheese, and the sort of, the mining. Which is, when you go there and you have a look at it, we see these beautiful mountains, and then you look to the side and, almost an entire mountain just absolutely decimated by mining. And so one of the things they did was made us think about that kind of conflict and how and there weren't any particular answers to how to move forward. But I thought it was really interesting the way that they did that. And what they did was they really sort of peeled back, lifted the mask of the facade of what a lot of tourists see about Colombia and gave us an opportunity to kind of look beneath the surface.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that one of my favourite things was the local, the Colombians that we spoke to, who, I don't know about you guys, but they just made me feel so welcome.
We just didn't speak any of their language, but even when we didn't understand them, they still made us feel very welcome.
Yeah.
I think I was on my own because you're in like a baraza.
Baraza is basically, it was a Swahili word, and it's essentially a term for a meeting of people from different sort of cultures. But yeah, so when we do, barazas is the word that they use in all of the conferences for the groups.
Okay. And I was in my group and we were going around, we did the scavenger hunt around the town. And I remember all these local children came out from school and our tour guides, ambassador of Round Square was like, no, we're going to talk to these children. And we're like, well, we don't know any Spanish. But she was like, no. And she got all these children around and we each went around and said good afternoon in our own languages. And all these children were like, oh my God, that's so cool. And she said, no, those children will remember this and probably go home and be like, look at the map. And because it's such a rural town where they don't have any tourists or different people. I thought that was really cool.
But going back to managing that conflict between their way of life and the industrialization, one of the things that we did was plant some trees. And I mean, it's a really incredible thing, I think, that you guys have a tree in Colombia which you've planted. And you'll probably never be able to go back to that place again and find it. But, that tree will most likely outlast all of us here. And I think that's really special. So, that was the 3 days in Pipa. Then we kind of head back and we got together for the closing ceremony at another one of those schools. What did you make of that?
Oh, the closing ceremony. I don't know how to put it into words. I still don't know how to put this whole trip into words, really. But it was just amazing. Everyone was just coming together, and it was like one big family, really. Everyone then knew everyone, and it was just.
Well, even if you didn't, you'd just go up to people, or they would come up to you.
It was a lot different to what I thought the closing ceremony would be. It was a lot more coming together than bureaucracy and talking about the conference.
Yeah.
It was just saying goodbye to people you met.
It felt like we'd known everyone there for our whole lives. Like some of the people that we met there just felt like friends for life, and I'm sure people will stay friends for life. And it was really nice to have that final day with all those people that we'd made friends with.
Yeah, I found that with the speaker we had, and the overall aura of the closing ceremony was Colombia is still blooming from the cups. And even though the next Rousewell will not be in Colombia, we've learnt about this country that is still going forward and that will still continue to to almost open itself up to the rest of the world as not this drug-laden country, but as a country filled with kind people and filled with ambition and aspiration. So I found that very interesting
Yeah, definitely.
with the closing ceremony.
That's a really lovely way of putting
Yeah,
it.
well
Great,
done.
great job. Yeah, and I don't know, maybe when we were finishing off and all that, maybe saw a few tears as we were saying goodbye. But okay, so yeah, I mean, essentially, like, I'd love a little bit of a closing remark. So you go, that was beautiful what you said. I want to think about someone who might be in year 11 currently, thinking about starting in year 12 next year, and you know the opportunity is going to be put to them to potentially take part in one of these conferences. I mean, have you got a message for anyone who's kind of sitting on the fence? You decide.
My message would be go for it. So before going for the conference, meeting new people was a nightmare. And I found that once you're there, you just kind of open yourself up.
Yeah.
And you just kind of melt into this big melting pot of cultures and different experiences. And it's so interesting. And the ideals, once you kind of just start experiencing it, you find that you start enjoying it, you start liking it, because you're doing it with different people and you're learning all these different kind of hands-on skills. So my advice would be go for it.
Yeah, I'm completely agree with Go. I think just do it. If you're sitting on the fence right now thinking, should I go for it? I mean, it's in Dubai. That is some bets of some people who just never go in their life. So yeah, if you're thinking about if you're on the fence right now, I suggest just handing in that application. You'll regret it if you don't. I know I would have. So yeah, it's
I
really
know
good.
people have said to me that I really wish
Yeah,
I'd done
100%.
that.
And so this is a bit of a harder question, slightly more philosophical, but if you were to distill one thing that you took away from the Round Square Conference, what would that be? What was the biggest thing that you took away from the Round Square Conference?
I think it's important to live in the moment, not to focus too greatly on what's happened or what might come. It's like doing what you can in the moment to better yourself and those around you.
Love that. So we're going to cast our eyes forward, because we spoke a little bit about Dubai, but I think it's a really good opportunity to talk about some of the things that being around Square in school allows us to avail of or take advantage of. So moving forward, you know, we're really going to be working on kind of fostering those ideals into more of the things that we do on a daily basis. But there are some wonderful, wonderful opportunities moving forward. We're obviously five of you went on the international conference. One of the other year 12 boys is going to go and do the service project in Vietnam. Thank you. And that's happening from the 6th to the 12th of December. There are opportunities available for more service projects. Now, the difference between a service project and the conference is when we do a conference, we go together. So the students and the staff go together. When this young man's going on his service project, he's going by himself, which is exciting. But
I don't think that should put someone off
No.
of doing it. I think even if you're going by yourself, you'll be so welcomed. And
No, because it's definitely, like, if you ask me what I took away from it, it'd be the people.
yeah,
110% who I met and who I'm in contact with now and friends with now. And just thinking, like, a week before, I didn't even know these people, and I'm coming away with so many different approaches, ideas, beliefs, culture, and like the culture night was really insane to watch, and just to open yourself up to all these different people would be for me. So the fact that even if you are going on your own, it's who you meet there as well that makes the experience.
exactly. Yeah, you'll be well looked after, that's for sure. And then there's more smaller conferences. So very excited, hot off the press. But along with this sort of podcast is going to be some information that goes out to students from year 8 and year 10. Because in February we're looking at offering students in year 8 the opportunity to go on a conference to Thailand. And for year 10s, the opportunity to go and take part in a conference in Rwanda. Ooh. What do you think?
Sounds
Just do it.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah. Exactly. You know, and the thing is, you think of Rwanda. I mean, I don't know how much of the history of Rwanda you know, but look it up. I mean, it's got a very I don't know, rich history, but also very sad, terribly sad, of some of the things that have happened there. And there's an incredible program called Viringa, which is about mountain gorillas. And if you ever have an opportunity, go and have a watch of that. But that's the kind of thing we remember about somewhere like Rwanda. And I think that when we go over there with the year 10s and we go and do a service project and go and experience what it's like, I think it'll just be mind-blowing and perspective-changing. And then I already spoke about Dubai next year, which will be available for year 12s next year. And then the last thing, and I think you guys were quite proud of me, when we were in Colombia, I was doing a lot of networking and I made some friends. And I made friends from teachers in South Africa, in Canada, in Colombia, in Germany and in Australia. And each of those, I made lots of other friends as well, but these guys that's the short list. These are the guys who are open for doing student exchanges with us. So that's another thing that's going to be coming to students in LVS. Is going to have to kind of manage around exams. So I think this is really going to be something that year 10s, perhaps year 9s, but most likely year 10s are going to be available to take part. What do you think about that?
Well, exchanges I'd do, they'd seem like so fun. You made so many memories, and it was just something that you can say only you've done, because an exchange won't be the same for you for another person.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the conference was each individual person as well, there, because we all had our own experience of it, which was really cool. Because in our Baraza group, we were in our own each Baraza groups, weren't we? So yes, Baraza groups are kind of coupled together to do certain things together, but you made your own friends, your own new connections, and did different things to other people as well.
Yeah.
But obviously the exchange would be solely yourself.
Brilliant. Anyway, that's a list of the people that I'd make contact with. There are over 250 round square schools in the world. So, I mean, really, the world is the oyster. And we will be looking at putting those exchanges on moving forward. So, yeah, that brings us kind of to the end of our little discussion. Hopefully, we've had an opportunity to kind of summarise a bit about what Round Square is and a bit about what Round Square means to us, to LVS. You know, it's a real privilege to be part of Round Square, of the organisation and the opportunities that are available to students. And I think that, you know, our message from those of us who've experienced the little bit of Round Square we've experienced is for students to really get stuck in, to take advantage of the opportunities that are available, because one day you guys will be in year 12 like Leighton, who really wants to do an exchange, but I'm not really sure if we're going to be able to make that happen. Any last comments from anybody?
Thank you for the opportunity, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys, because without you I wouldn't have been able to do that. So back at you. Brilliant. Okay, lovely. Thanks a lot, everyone.